The Joy Unleashed show empowers and inspires women to reclaim their joy. We provide tools, resources, and connections to help you unlock your true potential through engaging conversations, expert insights, and transformative stories. We create a vibrant and inclusive community where women can break free from the limitations that hold them back. I'm joyologist Colleen Greco, and it is my honor to be your host. Let's get right into the show. If you feel like you're stuck, if you feel like you don't quite know your purpose, or maybe you know it, but you just can't find the path toward it. If you're uncomfortable in your own skin and want to finally master self-love, then we need to talk. I'm Colleen Greco, and I'm your joyologist. I help women just like you to reclaim the joy they feel is missing in their life through mindset coaching and nutrition coaching. Whether you have weight to lose or simply need to get your gut in check, I've got you. We'll work together to retire limiting beliefs. Those are the stories that are keeping you from your purpose. I need you to hear me. Those are the stories that we need to get rid of in order to get you on your path to your purpose. We will work together to get you that life you've always dreamed of. It would be my honor to connect with you. Reach out to me via Instagram at @TheColleenGreco or email Colleen@ColleenGreco.com. Let's get you back to the show. Welcome back to another episode of Joy Unleashed. I'm Colleen Greco, your humble host and your resident joyologist. And today I am so excited to introduce you to Amy Wineland Daughters.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me on, Colleen. I'm very excited to be here.
This story is so great. Okay, this is going to be fun, everyone. I want you to maybe have a cup of coffee, a warm blanket, and tune in, because this is a great story. So, I'll just leave that little carrot out there dangling for a minute, Amy, while you just introduce yourself to the listeners and the viewers.
All right. My name's Amy Wineland Daughters, and I'm an author and a speaker and a letter writer. And that's basically my deal.
You're also a joke teller. You have an awesome sense of humor, and I want to go glasses shopping with you. So you're some sort of a stylist too.
I am. I'm Amazon's finest, Sears best.
And I want to thank you for being on brand today, because I'm not. So for everybody listening, she's wearing hot pink, which is the color of the show. But Amy, this is such a great story. Okay, before we jump into the story, because I will get lost in that for the next 6 years, let's start with my favorite question, which is, how do you define joy, and what brings you joy on a daily basis?
I think the way I define joy is knowing that, for me, I think it's knowing that I can make a difference in another human being's life. And the way I
leave your imprint.
Right.
Yeah.
That we really can make a difference. I think, to me, and the way I came upon that was completely not intentionally, but I think, to me, that's the most important thing I can do every day, is to be reminded that we can make a difference in somebody else's life. And that, to me, is one of the most beneficial things that's ever happened to me. Just an act of doing something for somebody else makes me, just so much better.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it, truly. Now I'll tee it up, but then I'm going to throw the mic over to you so that you can do this story some justice. But I think everybody can relate to, just kind of being on Facebook and being like, I wonder whatever happened to whoever, right? And you just kind of do a little search and you're like, oh yeah, they're still at that company and still married to that person. Yeah, okay. And then, a few years goes by and you think about it again. And I think we've all done it with different people in our life. But why don't you start at the start and tell us, how this story unfolded, where you did a very innocent, I wonder what happened to type of search that turned into magic, I'll say. So take it from there.
Right. And I love the way you teed that up, because it was just a regular day I was on Facebook, and it's so relatable. And I'd had this girl's name in my head for literally like 30 years. I had met a friend at a summer camp. We were counselors together, and we maybe spent 6 weeks together. And I don't even really have any lucid memories except for I just always remembered, and I think it's because we both had big personalities. There was an immediate, connection, and we cracked each other and ourselves up. And then we walked away from that camp in the summer of 1986, and we literally did life completely separately for 30 years, like no contact at all. And so one day I'm sitting down at my computer, and I'm like, her name popped in my head again, Dana. What happened to Dana? And so the Facebook and that thought intersect. I, type her name in my computer, boom, there she is. It's magic, and I think, oh, I'll friend her, even though we have no mutual friends. And she accepts because it's no big deal. It's like we're not really doing anything. It's this virtual thing. Like, you probably don't even know who I am, but be my friend. Oh, I'll be your friend because we don't have to do anything. And so then I
Yeah.
sit down and I do what everybody else does. What do you do when you get a new friend or an old friend that now is a virtual friend? You go and
Oh,
yeah, you go do some stalking, guys. This is the best. So I kind of, scroll through her life. Her hair's different. That's my first takeaway. And then I realized that she overachieved in children. She has 5 kids, and she's married to a guy who I also knew at camp. They have 5 kids. I'm like, wow. And then right away, I I get like a snapshot of her life. She has 4 daughters and a son. The son's the youngest, and right away I figure out that the son has cancer, and it's serious enough that Dana and the son Parker are at the St. Jude Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. And I'm like, oh no, because he is likely, fighting for his life if he's there. So I immediately become engaged in the story as a human being, as a mom, as a person. I'm like, oh no. But I even from that very first moment, I could tell that I was kind of overfeeling it. Like, and I like to tell the story in like different levels of me behaving irrationally. So my first little, foray into being crazy was I was like, oh my gosh. And I was just felt it right away. Like, oh my gosh, this poor Dana, who I don't know anything about. And so I start following along with the story. I start watching, and she's really honest, and open. So she posts about a lot of what's going on. She starts asking for people to pray. I like to pray. So I start doing that in the background. I don't hit like, I don't comment, I say nothing, I do nothing. I'm completely in the background. And so I follow along. He goes into remission. They go back home. I'm like, that's great. So they're kind of on my back burner. And then it's like 2014, the end of that year, you can tell something's changing. She goes back to Memphis. Well, Parker's relapsed, and again, she's super honest, like, here's what's going on. And again, I felt almost alarmed, as if me and this girl had been doing life together for 15 years and I know the kid. But it wasn't that way at all, obviously. And so she posts about going back to Memphis. I sit down at my desk. I'm a writer. I'm a freelance writer. And it's like I got hit by lightning at this desk. I'm sitting there minding my own business, truly with no intention of mine. And I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start writing them letters, and I'm going to send them to the Ronald McDonald House in Memphis. So crazy level number 2. Like, she doesn't probably even know who I am. This kid's fighting cancer, and I'm going to send them cards. It's a great idea, but I'm so committed. I get up that Monday morning. I used to have writing assignments. I wrote about college football, like Monday for Tuesday, Tuesday for Wednesday. So I just put her Sunday for Monday. I write the thing. I had to find stamps, the whole 9 yards. Hadn't written anyone a letter in 30 years probably. And so I just start sending them letters. I'm thinking about y'all. I'm praying for y'all. The letters get a little bit longer. I start telling them about my life. And I knew as I was mailing them, like, you're nuts. You're totally nuts. So 8 weeks probably go by of me writing Dear Dana and Dear Parker. And then, like, the unthinkable happens. And there's no good words to say this. And it really has nothing to do with me. But Parker passes away at 15. He doesn't, and so I feel devastated about the whole thing. First of all, again, as a mom, as a human being, as a person, it's the worst nightmare. But I was feeling like I have to do something I have to do something with this. So I sat back and I was like, well, I got to stop writing the letters and send them to Memphis. And I was like, so what do I do? And it was just another pure, like, gut instinct. Here is what you're going to do. You're going to keep praying for these people, and you're going to keep writing this woman, stranger, letters. And I knew, like, she lost her son. What was I thinking? But then I sat down and I was like, so where am I going to mail these letters? And so I went back to the stalking. I found her husband's office address, and serious to God, I started mailing the letters there to more people who didn't know who I was. I mean, totally nutso. So for 4 months, I write Dana letters every single week, every Sunday, and she'd get them, I guess, during the week. I didn't know if she got them or not. And then all of a sudden, it was like my 48th birthday. I go out to the mailbox, and I'm hoping like for a birthday card, but this is like 2015. Who's going to write me, And I pull out the stack of mail, flip through. 10-page letter from Dana, handwritten letter. This kicks off 2 years of us just writing each other. Like, we did not get on the phone. I did not have her cell phone number. We didn't Facebook message. We did nothing but write these letters. So I'm writing about my life from the outside in. I'm like, what am I going to say? So I just start talking about kitchen remodels and my husband and my job. And I get this incredible perspective on my own life by writing about it. She starts writing about her grief. She starts telling me stuff that she feels like she can't bring the room down when she's trying to survive this with her daughters and her husband. So she writes to me. She doesn't even know me, but it's this. And since she's putting her stuff in the mail, I'm putting my stuff in the mail. We have no idea when or if anyone's reading the letters. And so there's this freedom. We can say whatever we want. And then we start to trust each other. She used to tell me stuff like, "Oh, I know I can tell you this because I can trust you." Like, she doesn't even know who I am, but I'm telling her stuff about my personal business that I'm not telling anybody else. It's totally, again, it's insanity. And but we trust each other despite the fact we didn't really know each other in the real world. And I had no idea like what religion she practiced, like how she voted. And none of that really mattered, because what mattered was this exchange of emotion and sharing. And it was so about 6 months into the two-way writing, I sat back and I was like, you know what? If all of this can happen, if my life can just be turned on its head from Dana from Louisiana, who I haven't seen in 35 years, what else is out there on this list of these random people? So then I took it all the way to the next level, Colleen. I went completely insane. I put everyone's name from my Facebook list into a spreadsheet, and I cut all the names out and shoved them into a box and bought stationery that said, Amy, one of the daughters, your Facebook friend, at the top. And I got a journal, and I was like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write all these people. And I really do not think, I honestly did not think I was actually going to finish all the letters or actually do anything. But I went on this 18-month journey, and I wrote almost 600 handwritten letters to people who I knew, people who I didn't know, and it absolutely blew up my entire life.
Bill, was that all?
Well, I could talk about it for days, but that's the basic storyline.
So, for the record, this is the second time I've heard it, and I'm even more blown away now, knowing exactly what you're going to say. Like, it's just such a fascinating story about the power of the pen and the power of just like, or the innocence of connection for just the sake of like, hi, you're just trying to be kind, right? Like, there's no ulterior motive. You're not expecting anything back. There's no agenda. You're just putting it out there. Hi. And so, yeah, go ahead.
No, and I was going to say people, and then that's such an important part, because I had a lot of people, because one of the big challenges was addresses. How do I get the addresses? Well, my last ditch effort, because I like the whole surprise thing. Like, if you just because Dana provided that moment for me, and I'm sure I provided it for her too, that magic moment at my mailbox. And it's even more magical when the person doesn't know it's coming out of nowhere. I had no idea what the letters were going to mean, but before that, so if I'd asked for their address, I had several people who very rightfully were trying to verify, like, what are you doing? Like, are you going to try to sell me something? And it's such a great question. And they were blown away by what you said. Like, there's no angle to this. You're just going to write me a letter. Yes. And there were so many things that happened that I didn't expect to happen. And that was one of them. They gave me their address. And two, of course, they were asking me why I was doing it.
Yeah. Well, it's normal. I saw something on Facebook the other day about, excuse me, a door-to-door salesman. That's the way sales used to happen.
Right.
So it's a perfectly natural thing to do. But in this day and age, we think somebody's going to break into our house and kill everybody in it. Right. So it makes perfect sense. So of the 600 that you wrote to all these Facebook friends, how many people responded?
Well, I'm kind of a numbers girl, so I have a infographic here and my response rate was 74%. So,
oh, wow. As a marketer, I'm like jealous.
and so, but that, by and large, people wrote me back. They felt compelled to handwrite back. But this also includes, someone thanking me in person, which was, or a Facebook message, an email, a phone call, any kind of response I counted as a response. And the response rate is a complete reflection on how the letters made people feel. And this is what I did not understand, Colleen, because I did not understand, because I did not do this intentionally. I did not set out to change my own life or anyone else's life. I did not, I knew, I kind of assumed it would be meaningful in some way, but I did not understand in 2017, 18, 19, what it would mean to people to get a letter. And but the way that works is it's so intentional. And this, I did this 580 times. So, and that's why I'm so passionate about it, because it can make such a difference. But if you write me a letter, let's say we went to high school together, years and years ago, or not, less years for you, more years for me. But but the first thing you're going to do is create this moment at the mailbox. I'm going to go to the mailbox, I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to immediately, in my head, in my heart, even more importantly, I'm going to connect the dots of what it took for you to do this. I'm going to be like, holy crap, she sat down with paper and wrote this out. And it didn't matter. You could have written one line or 640 lines. You could have written whatever. And she had to sit down and do that, find a pen, find paper. Then she had to find an envelope. Then she had to seal it. Wait, where's my address? She had to get a stamp. And then she had to put all of this together, and she had to leave her house. Colleen had to go and find a mailbox or a post office or something. And so I could have this, and then it's in my hand. This thing that was in your hand is now in my hand. And all of a sudden, I'm going to realize on a profound level that in this world of social media does such a great job of hooking us in, but in this world of, but it also isolates us, where we're all with this group on our news feed. In that world, I'm going to know I matter individually to another person enough that they would take the time and the effort to do this for me.
Yes.
And you want to roll into that. And then on top of that, whatever you said is going to mean so much to me. But especially so, and this is what I learned over and again. Again, I'm not some great person. I'm just another skinny heart girl trying to stay married over here. But when I wrote the letters, like, what did I even say? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to go stalk their profile, because you're going to look for something to say. And so all of a sudden, I was figuring out, like, let's say I wrote you. We'll turn the tables. Okay, I would go on Colleen's Facebook. And I'd be like, oh my God, look at what Colleen has done. She's doing this podcast. She's a coach. She makes a difference in people's life. She is connecting people and letting people tell these stories, and no telling the impact she's had. So first of all, I'd be like, oh my God, Colleen's a badass and she's my friend. I'd be like, Colleen, you're killing it. I am so proud to be your friend. And then I'm going to look and I'd be like, I didn't know about the struggles you had, and I know you've had, and I've listened to a lot of your episodes because that's what I like to do. And now I crack out everybody's podcast, but I know you've had stuff happen with your son, and
Yep.
I'd have been like, and I would have never said that to you before because I didn't know, but I'd be like, I'm sorry you went through that, and so I told people, I thanked them for stuff. I offered support for struggles. I congratulated people, but then I would have thought back and said, Colleen was the girl when that guy broke up with me by the payphone that got right in my face, like showing your hand as an adult to you. And you were like, you're not going to let this define you. You're not going to let this relationship define you. You're going to be fine. We're going to get through this and your life is going to be beautiful. And I'll be like, Colleen, you were right. And thank you, Colleen, because you about saved my butt that day by the payphone. And so you talk about, and again, I didn't do this because I'm a great letter writer. I did it because I had 2 pages to fill. And what was I even going to say? But then you read that, you had the moment at the mailbox, and on top of that, you're going to read that. Oh my God, people just were, I had no idea. It was just boom, 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 boom. And it's like there's so much adrenaline in doing this. It is the absolute best version of a human being I will ever be in my life.
I think it's so amazing, truly, because it's also it's funny when you think about the people that you went to high school with, and I'm not that connected to them other than Facebook. Really, I
Right.
have maybe two high school friends that I stay in touch with, and then a couple on text. And so, when my father was going through Lewy body dementia, I'm a person of action. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna host a fundraiser because there's nothing in this area, and that's not okay. And I can't take the dementia away from him, but I can contribute money. And so, why don't I just take on the really easy task of organizing a 5K? And by the way, I'm going to have it in 90 days. Okay. Does that sound good? Right. So it was like, and work a full
Wow.
time job. And I have two little babies at that time. Um, and so many people, because I did it in my hometown, from my high school showed up, and it was all like my guy friends and everything. And like, I had this one friend, we lost him unfortunately to suicide, but he rallied and he helped me with the fundraising, and he was a big hockey guy, and he got me like a signed hockey stick from Cam Neely, and I think another one from Ray Bork, and all this stuff. Like, I was like, where are you coming from? Why are you doing that for me? I haven't talked to you in 10 or 15 years at that point, because maybe I went to a reunion occasionally, right? Like,
Right.
but we didn't really have any connection. But I still, to this day, so when I went to his funeral last year, God, I have no concept of time anymore. Last year, I went straight up to my guy group, and I was like, hey guys, how we doing? Like, it was like I hadn't seen them in, let's say, 30 years, but it was like
Right.
5 minutes.
Right.
And
Right.
I still to this day believe, if I needed something, I could call them and they would show up.
Right.
So much more than the people that are in my life today. So there is some amazing connection with that time in your life,
Right.
where it's like those really kind of are your people. They know you best.
Well,
They
and
know
that's
you before you were smart enough to cover things up.
right. Well, and you've shared that one and those ages are so special. You don't replicate that. You don't do that part of you can't. It's not like an adult where we're being adults the whole time
Yeah.
supposedly. But no, and I haven't thought about that way. But some of the most sincere and emotional and meaningful exchanges I had were with that group of people. And it's funny how those people. My dad passed away after the letters at the end, and he passed away suddenly. And when we were in like ICU, and my brother and sister would be like, "Oh my God, the letter people are coming again," because these people just felt so special they were going to come to whatever. But at the memorial services, it was the same way. These high school people giving me the biggest hugs with tears in their eyes, and because, like you said, it's the combination of the letters combined with the high school people. That's an off the chain combination.
Now I want to get back to Dana in a second, but I am curious how many, because I'm sure a few people wrote like once and then that fell off, right? Like, that's just human nature. But are you able to keep in touch with like a certain amount of people, or did they all kind of
I
quiet
think what it
down?
what it did, because I had a hard time keeping up with the responses,
Yeah, that
honestly.
had to be a lot.
Well, and then one of the I did not expect it. I came out of the project like feeling all world, but I also felt guilty because people shared stuff with me because I was this act of friendship, offering the hand of friendship. I couldn't keep up with like people telling me. So I tried to respond, especially the people who really shared, but you just couldn't keep up with it. What I will say it did though, it depthened my relationships. Whether I'm going to see somebody once or never see them again, I swear people hug me different. And it may be just me or them, but every time I see someone who got a letter, it's just a special, you know, it's there's something special about it because I think that I saw them as an individual, and then they felt like they were an individual, and they see me completely differently. So
Yeah, it's like a very intimate act that
it
that you
is,
did. So now Dana,
yeah.
right? So Parker has passed away. You guys keep writing. Eventually you get in contact, like live contact with each other over the phone. Then what happens?
Well, yeah. She sent me an email. I guess we had written for almost 2 years, and she said, my family and I are going to go to back to Memphis to run the St. Jude Marathon. You know, you and your family are welcome. Like at this point, we still haven't talked on the phone or anything, and I was like, Absolutely. I mean, I'll do whatever you want me to do because this relationship is so special. I was like,
You're
I
like
will,
you're like, "I could be there in, like, 10 hours. Does that
yeah,
work?"
I'll get there. And so I was so nervous, but we drove to Memphis. We had our younger kid with us, and I had never run anything. I had like Lyme's disease and stuff, but I was like, I don't care. I'm running the 5K because if she asked me to run through the wall right now, I would do it. So we get together in Memphis, and we talk now about like what if it would have been awkward. Like I walk in, and she had sent me like a Team Parker shirt. So my husband and my son and I walk in, and my son looks up to me, and he was in fourth grade at the time. He said, "Mom, how does it feel to know that your whole life's about to change right here?" Like it's like he knew. So we walk into
Um,
the lobby of this hotel, and here's all these people with these Team Parker shirts, and I walk straight up to her, and we have this big hug, and then it was just like it was like there were two sides of this puzzle that were supposed to be together, and we just it just we just in lockstep, and then the whole adventure of us being together, we were loud, and I mean, we're loud, and we make each other laugh, and we go on great adventures. And I wrote the book about our experience, and she went on the book tour with me, and we've done so much stuff together. And actually, I'm sitting in her house right now because she turned 60 this week, and so I am here at Dana World, celebrating her birthday, and she's my best friend. She's absolutely the best friend I've ever had.
all because you got a little stalkery on Facebook, a little curious.
Yeah, that's all it was, that inspiration. Yeah, I don't know what it was, but it's an amazing connection, and she
Yeah.
she knew about, I was writing, because all the Facebook letters were written while her and I were pen paling. And so, those letters were all, in the universe together.
It's such a magical story. I mean, the thing is, I talk a lot about joy in the smallest of moments, but that's like kindness in the smallest of moments. It's just being considerate of another human being and just saying, like, hey, you're on my mind. And there's nothing more to it sometimes than just like saying that. And what little effort it took to be able to do that, you can't even calculate the impact that has on somebody to know that they're thought of by somebody else. I mean, I know one of my greatest fears is when I die, because it's not an if, it's a when. When I die, like, is anybody going to care? I hope so, right? But
Right.
I don't know, right? And how are they going to find out? Probably through a Facebook post, which is horrible, but it's like,
Right. But that's,
you
yeah. It- yeah, and I think that, yeah, no, absolutely, it is a active. And for me now, I mean, I still write somebody every day, only because, like I said, it's an adrenaline rush for me, because I think that concept, the way you would look at it is, look, I'm going to go make all these people feel good, but the truth is, the person who's the most changed in this whole story is me. And that's why I continue to do it, because it is the best version of me. It's a way every day that I can, because it, like, put your mindset back in gratitude, because if I'm telling people that I care about them and they matter to me, well, oh my God, then look at all the value in my life, because it started off with this random list of people, and it turned out to be this treasure trove of actual real relationships. I do think, Colleen, the problem with my story is, our story is that it's overwhelming. Like, look, she wrote 600 letters, but I think that the call to action, the move forward, is like, okay, forget about that. You know, anyone who's listening to this who feels compelled to write a letter or reconnect with somebody, and they're thinking of that person of mine, you have to do that your own way. Like, if it's one a month you want to write, or
it might
it's
be whenever.
ever. And it could be a note with 3 lines in it. That's the thing. This has to be like from within you. So my story is an example and perhaps a inspiration, but it is absolutely not a blueprint of what to do. And I think we do too much of that. We want everybody to do it the same way we did it, as opposed to be like, where do you see yourself in this story? And you, in this podcast, that's what you do. You're presenting people's stories, people's ideas, people's, where they can put all that stuff together into what works for them. And I guarantee you, somebody inspired me in some way earlier on for me to have even this idea. But I will tell everyone listening, if you just go to Target and buy the smallest note card and write 4 sentences in it and mail it to somebody and see what happened next, you are going to feel good about it. I guarantee you, regardless if you get a response or not.
100%. I actually, offline, there is somebody I want to connect you with because I feel like she had something similar that was like, I'm just going to try to put a little joy out into the world, and it ended up being this like ripple effect that you know helped a lot of people. I think it was maybe as COVID was starting, right? And it just made this huge change. But it was this very simple, basic act that felt authentic to her, felt authentic to you, um, but had a huge impact on, on both of you, on all of you. I think that's amazing. Why do I not have the name of your book at my fingertips? What did I do? I clicked on something.
Oh,
What's the
oh,
name of your
it's
book, please?
Dear Dana.
Dear Dana. That's right.
Yep. Yeah, Dear Dana.
We'll
So,
make
and
sure
it,
we have that in the show notes too. But yeah, Dear Dana, we want to make sure we promote that because that, you know, I can't wait to read it myself because I think, it's just going to uncover a lot of that, emotion that for some reason we stuff really deep inside. And that's like that right there is the beauty of life.
right, right. Yeah, and I think one of the other big takeaways I learned is that, because let's say back to your and I's example, let's say you're writing me a letter and you're going to have a moment where you're like, you know, it's been so long, like I don't want to tell her this, like that happened 5 years ago. I found out over and over and over again, it does not matter how long it's been since you've been in contact with someone. If reaching out and telling them that you care is never going to be too late, the timing's never going to be off. I had people tell me over and over and over again, oh, the timing of your letter was perfect. You had to have known. I mean, I was pulling names out of boxes, out of a box every
Yeah.
day. But the timing to them was perfect because and there, I mean, I think there's something, otherworldly about that, but everybody can frame that however they want to. But it's just that, again, it all comes back to the act. I told people in the first paragraph of every Facebook letter, I told them about Dana and Parker because that was my why. And then I told every single one of them, I'm writing everyone a letter, like disclaimer. I'm writing all y'all. It's crazy. I know. I'm writing every single one of you. But over and over and over again, people were like, you chose me. I was selected. Like they won the lottery. I was like, I told you I chose everybody. That's how they felt. And we went on that book tour. People were showing up with their letters in pristine condition. And the number one response I got from people from the Facebook letters, the absolute number one response was this: I will save your letter in a special place for the rest of my life. And that just, again, this is not, it has anything to do with Amy Daughters. This has to do with the hope in our connections that, we are so divided right now, but if you reach out to me and then I reply to you with nothing but goodwill on the line, like you said, and this, like, people can't even believe that's happening, then all of a sudden, all that stuff that separates us, politics, religion, whatever, that we are standing on the other side of this huge hole in the earth, it just doesn't matter as much when we reminded about the hope that's in our connections.
What That's so powerful. One of the things that I anchor to and I sort of discovered, I think it was like last November. And this as I say I discovered it, it sounds like it's so profound. It is really profound, but it's like seriously complicatedly simple that love is the answer to everything. And what you did was an act of love. You threw it out there, and it's your job to throw it out there. It is not your job to decide how Dana receives it or doesn't receive it. It's not your job to dictate whether or not she responds. It's your job just to give the love and just like and keep on giving it. And
Right.
that's it. Like, and that's amazing. I think that's and it changes
It
lives.
does. And
It's
yeah, and I
amazing.
think that, it's back to encouraging each other to whatever you feel like. You talked about your friend, who did something, whatever she did, similar or not similar, but encouraging each other to listen to that voice inside of you and then just go for it,
Do
and then
it.
not worry about. That's the other thing I learned from this project is that, you know, of course I enjoy the responses, and I would go to my mailbox with much excitement every day, like, even though I couldn't keep up with it because, oh my gosh, it was so great to receive the responses I got. But I realized that, there's the 26% of the people who I did not hear back from. But that does
Mhm.
not mean that those letters didn't mean every bit as much to those people, to the people I respond to, because I kind of figured out that people have a personality type. It's kind of like how we know our friends by the way they text. There's a different level of response, or the immediacy of the response. But just because someone didn't know how to respond, or didn't feel like they could respond, or didn't get around to it, doesn't mean that that letter didn't just make their whole entire life. And I think if we could do that, like even with electronic communication or whatever we're trying to put out into the world, nobody has to validate that. It should not stop us from doing, just, chugging along and doing what it is we know we have to do.
Like, mic drop. I can't trump that. That was so beautifully said. I want to make sure people know where to find you, so they can follow you on Instagram at Smokin' Hot Amy's. And sometimes I do ask people, to give me a couple of questions in case we have difficulty, establishing rapport, which I knew wouldn't be a problem with you. But I was intrigued by one of your questions.
Oh.
You said, this cracks me up. The bonus question you included was, why are you so hot and skinny?
Oh, yeah. Well, I get that a lot, and thank you for asking me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well, I work out all the time, and the hotness, I was just born with it. And it's a little crippling in my relationships because people are like, stop it with the hot girl stuff,
I know, it's like annoying. You're constantly fighting them away.
Right. And I'm just like, I finally decided when I turned 34 last year, I'm just going to own it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to own this perfect body, and I'm just going to dance with who brung me the dance, Colleen. But that's a great question.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Amen to all of that. Now, if I could just bottle your essence up and sell it. Woo. Well, this is your Instagram, and I also want to make sure people know your website. So I'll put that up here, amydaughters.com. And there they can find, all kinds of tools and resources, and access to your book. And what other juicy tidbits would they find on your website?
Well, there's a contact form, and then there's an email address, and I love to hear from people. And so if you want to chat about letter writing or whatever else, I'm available for that. So, because, I kind of like to start a letter writing movement just based on my experience. So, and I like to hear what other people out there are doing too. And I've got so many great stories from people about their own little note writing, letter writing, or whatever they're doing. So feel free to share or ask questions.
Beautiful. And I would love to hear if you could comment, if you're watching this on YouTube or any of the podcast networks, if you could, comment there and let us know how this inspired you to maybe start your own letter writing campaign. Cause I agree. I think it's so powerful. And honestly, it's such a nice little dose of joy amongst the bills and the junk mail and all the other stuff. It's like, ooh, is this real handwriting? Right.
Oh yeah. And you're onto something when companies are spending, thousands of dollars either buying machinery, equipment, or now there's these letter writing services. Go look it up, where they've got a robot arm, and you get to pick your pen color, and writing notes out to clients. I've done talks to real estate groups, and because it is there's definitely a place for this, up and down a chain of employees. There's a definite benefit in any kind of human relationship. There was a benefit to the letter writing, but when companies are spending millions of dollars to harness the power of making it look like a handwritten letter, that for 66 cents and 15 minutes of your time, you can be a part of that. It's a small investment to make a big difference, and it can be employed in a workplace situation.
It's beautiful. Yeah. Any parting thoughts before we wrap up today's session? Because I really do feel like I could talk to you for the next 6 weeks.
Me too, for sure. No, I just encourage everyone to do one thing that they keep wanting to do in their own head, today, this week. That one thing you've been bouncing around in your mind, and see what happens.
Yeah, and keep it simple. It doesn't have to be this massive thing, right? These little tiny love notes, doses of joy, call them whatever you want. That's all it takes. It's so perfect. Thank you so much for being on today, Amy. This has been a lot of fun, and I know it's going to inspire a ton of people.
Well, thank you for letting us share our story. I appreciate it, Colleen.
Absolutely. Well, that was our latest episode of Joy Unleashed. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. Well, if you aren't buzzing from excitement from that podcast, you better check your pulse, because that was such an awesome story. Amy is amazing. Her story is amazing. Her relationship with Dana, like, how simple an effort did she make? And it changed both of their lives for the better. It's magical. So the joy tip of the day today is do something, one thing to impact someone else's life out of the kindness of your own heart with no expectation of reciprocation. That's the joy tip of the day. I hope you take me up on it. And make sure you go to amydaughters.com. Make sure you check out, her book, and stay connected. Thank you for tuning in to Joy Unleashed. As always, it's my honor to be your host and joyologist, Colleen Greco. Follow me at the Colleen Greco on Instagram for daily motivation and inspiration. And don't forget to leave my show a review on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, sisters.